G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Thank you for tuning in, I hope you are having a fantastic day, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Unexpectedly Married, titled, Am I the asshole for leaving my surprise wedding because I felt blindsided? Last week, I, 30 female, was invited to a supposedly fancy party by my long-term boyfriend, Mark, 32. We had been dating for 5 years, and while we had discussed marriage before, there were no immediate plans for a wedding. Excited about the event, I dressed up in my best attire and arrived at the designated venue. As I entered the grand hall, I was completely taken aback to see all of our family, friends, and acquaintances gathered, eagerly waiting. It turns out Mark had orchestrated an elaborate surprise wedding for us without my knowledge. Everyone erupted into applause as I stood there, shocked and overwhelmed. I just felt a mix of emotions. While I love Mark and had dreamed of our future together, the idea of getting married without any prior discussion or consent felt like a breach of trust. So I pulled Mark aside and tried to express my concerns and reservations about the surprise wedding. I explained that I wanted a say in the planning process, to be a part of the decision-making, and to have the chance to prepare mentally and emotionally for such a significant milestone in our lives. However, Mark dismissed my concerns, saying that he thought that it would be a romantic gesture and that I would be thrilled. In that moment, I faced a difficult choice. Go along with the surprise wedding, putting on a smile despite feeling unsettled, or stand up for my autonomy and voice my true feelings. I ultimately made the decision not to proceed with the surprise wedding, much to the disappointment and confusion of our guests. Now I find myself at odds with Mark, our families, and even some of our friends who believe that I overreacted and spoiled a beautiful moment. However, I firmly believe that a marriage should be a joint decision, with open communication and shared expectations. Everyone's excuse for this is that I've always talked about marrying Mark. And again, the problem isn't marrying him. The problem is not having any say in my wedding. Mark thought that I'd appreciate it, because I always spoke about how stressful planning a wedding must be. Yes, I think it's stressful, it is, but I'd still like planning one. After this whole ordeal, everyone asked if Mark and I were ending things, in which I replied no. I emphasized towards them and Mark that I still wanted to marry him, and most feel like this is making me more of an asshole since I just wasted a perfectly fine wedding. So am I the asshole for refusing to attend my own surprise wedding, even though it was intended as a romantic gesture? Edit. I previously omitted this from my post because of the subreddit's word count guidelines. I love surprises. It's a thing everyone has known me to love. Mark, knowing that, and the fact that I wanted to marry him, and also said wedding planning was stressful, thought that a surprise wedding would be perfect. A surprise engagement is bland because it will always be a surprise, but not a wedding, lol. He threw this wedding for the surprise, but explained how in a couple of days we could do a courthouse wedding to make it legal. This was his only way to surprise me. I love spontaneity, but legal marriage or not, I wanted a say in my wedding. To choose the perfect date, to choose my bridesmaids, to pick out my cake. Again, due to these thoughts, everyone thinks I'm the asshole, because I could have went along with the party and do a redo legal wedding. But again, I felt blindsided and confused, so I left. Yeah, with the edit, I do think it gives a lot more context as to why he did it. I don't think he's an asshole per se for doing it. It seems as though it was a huge shot in the dark that could have paid off immensely, and it didn't go to plan. He didn't do this maliciously, no one came maliciously. It seems as though this was all just huge miscommunications and misunderstandings. Damn, I actually can't decide whether he's an asshole or not for doing this because he embarrassed you in front of all of your friends, family, acquaintances, and that kind of feels like an asshole thing to do, even though those weren't his intentions. I'm always repeating to myself that phrase of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And yeah, I feel like he knew the risks of this one and he did assume that you would say yes to this wedding and not walk out. I think for the personal embarrassment that's caused to you by this wedding and the reputational damage that you're incurring as a result of this, I actually think that he's a bit of an asshole for that, just because I put myself in your shoes and think, I wouldn't want to be in your position. That would be cringe and really embarrassing and hard to explain. So I guess not the asshole for this one. I was going to go no assholes here, but upon further thinking, I'm landing on that. In the comments, Gallon Smoke Scale says, get the hell out of that relationship, not the asshole 100%. You know that Mark's an asshole when he takes his moves right out of Gaston's playbook. Flowmojo Blow says, he dismissed my concerns. Huge red flag, and not the asshole at all about leaving. A marriage is a partnership, not an ambush. Also, how was he able to get a marriage license without your presence? Not the asshole. You can have a wedding without a marriage license, it's just not a legal marriage at that point. Some areas have common law marriage. If she went through with the wedding, that could lead to a valid marriage in certain states. And now, on to the update. I want to start off by thanking everyone for the responses I got and the advice. However, I would like to reiterate that Mark is a great person who did a stupid thing. If you knew me though, a surprise wedding seems like something that I would love. Unfortunately, I didn't. After talking to Mark, we both got to the conclusion that we didn't do anything wrong. Both of us are valid in our opinions, and the situation was an odd one. Unfortunately, Mark spent a lot of money on planning this wedding, as well as family members. He doesn't think that we have the funds to plan another wedding until a couple of years. I will be honest, that choice is really messing with me. I'd like to be married sometime soon and start our life as a family. I know weddings don't have to be extravagant. We could always throw a small party, and once we have enough money to do a second one, but I don't know if that's what I want. I honestly feel selfish and regret not using the surprise wedding. I feel like I wasted a bunch of money. I used to stand by my choice confidently, but now I'm not sure that I made the right choice and all this stress is wearing me down. Anyway, I'm staying with Mark. Probably will get married soon and have my dream wedding in the near future, hopefully. Again, thanks to all the responses, and I hope that people from Am I the Arsehole also see this post. In the comments, Tail Over T says, personally, the fact that he blew all the wedding money on a surprise without any consultation or care at all to what you actually wanted, then blew you off when you tried to express your very genuine concern is still raising red flags for me. Not gonna say it has to be a deal breaker, I don't know him, but the general lack of concern or care towards your wants and needs, and a willingness to spend large amounts of savings on something for you that you absolutely did not want at all, then trying to pressure you into it because he backed you into a corner, is to me still very much cause for concern. But I recognize that I've only seen a tiny piece of this puzzle, and I wish you the best. I think this is perfectly stated. I find this update very concerning, mainly because of this. Quote, we both got to the conclusion that we didn't do anything wrong. While this maybe, and I'm being generous here, could have been a well-intentioned but terribly misguided idea at best, since OP is saying that it wasn't meant to be a controlling and manipulation tactic, the fact remains that he blew all of the wedding money completely unilaterally without any thought of consulting her. This is a major breach of trust. Now they are out a lot of money, red thousands, that was completely wasted on what is now a bad memory for everyone involved. He humiliated her in front of all her friends and family, robbed her of any autonomy, ambushed her with a wedding that she didn't get to plan or be excited for, and on top of all that, spent so much money, family money too, and it's now derailing the wedding/timeline she actually did want. He took so much away from her with this stunt and still thinks that he didn't do anything wrong? No apology? No acknowledgement or understanding at all on why this was a terrible effing idea? Can he still not see the problem? I also wish you the best, OP, but I also hope that there's going to be some real conversations about how to handle huge life decisions and money as well. Because if he still can't see why he was in the wrong here, it means that he will do it again. I hope you end up in a relationship where you can actually trust your partner, whether it's with Mark or not. Good luck. He also spent joint money on this? He could have made a surprise proposal and have a party, but having a surprise wedding for which he spent so much money that you are not being able to have a wedding is beyond dumb. Do whatever you want, but next he's going to surprise you with a house or some other idiotic surprise. Surprise, I got a loan. Surprise, I sold our house. Surprise, I quit my job. Surprise, we're moving 1,000 miles away. My ex attempted to do that. One of the many reasons he's my ex. He thought that he'd apply for jobs in another state and surprise me with moving plans when he got one. I will say that him making all these elaborate plans and spending that much money, especially without consulting you first, is very concerning. My ex also did that, just not in the manner that Mark did. Lenithriel says, "It sounds like you're making excuses for him to avoid facing the fact that he's a jerk. Editing to make it clear that I was this person before, mentally and emotionally manipulated to believe that despite the not-so-great decisions he made and the acts that he did, that he was still ultimately a great person. Turns out the bad decisions and things he did really were a reflection of who he was, and I was going to continue to allow myself to be gaslit and controlled if I stayed." A surprise wedding like Andy and April in Park and Rec is great. A surprise wedding to one of the prospective spouses is no bueno. Even if you love surprises, that is a step too far. Taking away someone's autonomy and forcing them to make an awkward scene in front of family and friends is just too much. Is it weird that her parents or family were on board with this idea? Nobody mentioned anything to her before the day? He blew their money on a surprise wedding as well. Now they are broke for the next few years. That is not a good sign for the relationship. The fact that she herself says, "If you knew me, you'd see why he'd think this was a reasonable idea," makes me think that she's seriously into surprises to an extent that her family, knowing her, genuinely thought that she would be into it. I don't understand that, but that appears to be the situation. And yeah, that about wraps up that story. I still feel terrible for everything that's gone on here, and as these people go into the situation more and dig deeper, I feel even worse. I've never met anyone that into surprises, and maybe they are both their own kind of crazy and weird, but to me, outside looking in, his actions are absolutely a relationship breaker. I don't know how many people would stay in a relationship and why they would, if they did. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'd love to know yours down in the comments below. Our next post is by user Am I the Asshole Stepson Prob, titled, "Am I the asshole for cancelling my stepson's birthday because he facepalmed me?" I married my husband 2 years ago, and my relationship with my stepson, who is 12, has never been well. We tried everything, but nothing seems to work. His behavior towards me is so terrible. He shouts at me, swears at me, and calls me the worst mother ever. His 13th birthday is tomorrow, and since my daughter, 7 females' birthday, is only 10 days apart, we usually celebrate them both in the same day, and they're fine with it. I asked my stepson who he has invited, and that's when he facepalms, the gesture, and tells me that he has already answered this question before in the worst tone ever. This is where I lost it, and I told him that because of his attitude, I'm going to cancel his birthday tomorrow. At first, he didn't believe me, since it's not the first time that I intended to punish him without actually doing it in the end. But this time, I was serious, and to prove it to him, I called his grandparents and told them that his birthday got cancelled. He started crying, begging me not to cancel, but I told him it's too late. I got berated by his grandparents because of this, and they told me that I don't have the rights to cancel his birthday. As his mother, I'm pretty sure that I can do what I want, but they weren't listening to me. They even told me that tomorrow they are coming to his birthday with the gifts, even after I told them not to bother because I won't open the door. Am I the asshole here? Yes? Yes, you're an asshole for this? What in the overreaction Christ is going on here, OP? All he did was give you some attitude. He's 12 years old. All 12-year-olds give you attitude. What is going on in your brain? You're really going to smite a 12-y this hard for not giving you perfect attitude all day, every day? I bet your daughter at 7 years old gives you attitude every now and then, but because she's your daughter by blood, I'm sure that you don't have any problem with that. In the comments, Pink Purple Blue Pride says, "You're the asshole. Lady, what the actual hell? Birthdays are never something that you should cancel unless the kid majorly screwed up. It is such a shitty thing to do. You only get so many birthdays as kids, and those memories and experiences are so priceless that the fact that you're punishing him like this for something so damn petty is making me see red." I also noticed how you never actually said why your relationship is strained, and only talked about how he was rude. You are obviously leaving a whole lot of justification on his end out of this. You need to pray to God to give you some empathy and some sense, and then you need to uncancel his birthday and make it up to him tenfold, over an effing face palm. Absolutely ridiculous. I wish your stepson the best. Exactly. Maybe figure out why your stepson is being rude rather than skipping to the punishment. Well, because his stepmom is horrible and he's a teenager. There, puzzle solved. She doesn't even refer to herself as his stepmother. This woman actually had the audacity to say, as his mother, "I'm pretty sure I can do what I want," and then act surprised that his biological grandparents, who most likely already know how much of an entitled asshole OP is, wouldn't listen, as if she actually has the authority to cancel a 12-year-old's birthday party. For F's sake, OP, your stepson is probably going through enough already with a global pandemic going on and having to deal with an entitled asshole step-parent who doesn't even recognize their role as step-parent and refers to herself as his mother. The least you could do is not ruin his birthday too. Seriously, I was around the same age when my dad got into a new relationship. If his new partner started calling herself my mum after only 2 years, I would have been done with her ass too. You're the asshole. Please answer me what a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old have in common other than being in the same household that would warrant them sharing a birthday. Or does it just make life easier for you? You're an asshole because you're clearly vying for dominance with a child that you were supposed to be protecting and loving. Kids are little shits. They will be disrespectful and rude. It's in their nature. You're supposed to be the adult. I hope his grandparents come and take him out for the day. And now, onto the update. Since many of you have called me an asshole, and after the conversation I had with my husband and his parents, I realized that I did indeed overreact, and I shouldn't have made such a harsh punishment. Some of you suggested that if his attitude persists, I should find other ways to punish him, like not allowing him on a laptop, let him do some homework, etc., and I will start doing these sorts of punishments if needed. Unfortunately, due to me not contacting his friends on time, his birthday party still didn't happen on his birthday. It was postponed 2 days later, but my daughter still got to celebrate her birthday on that day. My son was obviously really upset, and in the morning he came to me and was on the verge of crying, asking me if I did actually cancel his birthday party. I told him that unfortunately his friends already made plans, but if he behaves, I will still do his birthday after 2 days. Surprisingly, he was really polite with me these days, probably because he really wanted his birthday party. But I'm really happy to see that he stopped raising his voice at me and stopped with these rude gestures such as face palming. His grandparents were also really upset with me, and they're the ones that ended up arranging the party for him instead, as they said that I am too irresponsible. Both birthday parties ended up being successful, and until now, I still haven't had any severe arguments with him, and I'm really happy with the way that things are going. Thank you to everyone who sent me DMs to support me and to provide me tips, especially the stepmothers who were going through similar problems. In the comments, Apprehensive Data 567 says, "So just to be clear, 1. You did cancel his party. 2. When he asked you about it in the morning of the party, you told him his friends had already made plans, which was actually because you didn't contact them. And 3. His grandparents had to arrange it because they rightly judged that you were too irresponsible for this. You sound like an evil stepmother from a children's book. Did you apologize to him at least? It doesn't sound like you did. This isn't about finding other punishments. Who the hell punishes someone over face palming themselves? This is about you not treating him properly. There is just so much wrong here, and your update makes it clear that you do not understand what is wrong." Oh my god, you still haven't got it through your head that a birthday party isn't something to hold over a child's head. When he came and asked you if you cancelled it, instead of apologizing and telling him that you overreacted and having a conversation like any sane adult would, you still used the birthday party as blackmail. I promised him if he behaved, it would happen 2 days later. What the actual F? Lady, get your head out of your ass. You're the asshole in general with him. When I was a kid, I saved up a bunch of money and bought a Game Boy. Basically, all the money I had made, I had saved until I was 8. I loved that Game Boy. My dad knew that I loved the Game Boy that I had earned, and he would threaten to take it away, not just if I misbehaved, but if I did something that he personally didn't like, or if I didn't want to do something with him. One day he came into my room and I was playing my Game Boy, and he said he wanted me to play a game with my little brother. He threatened to take away my Game Boy if I didn't. He also started to tease me about how I liked the Game Boy and he could take it away anytime he wanted. I threw it out the window. I learned at a very early age that I would rather not have access to something than to have someone hold it over my head. Remarkable Moose 6950 says, "Am I wrong? She wasn't going to have the party anyway because she forgot to invite the kids' friends. Does anyone else think that she was looking for a reason to cancel?" Yeah, too many people missed this. She says later that the kids invited could not come because they have plans for that day, but the timeline seems to be all in the same day, which is the day before. The first post gives a hint. The 13-year-old had told her at least once before the names, and she forgot them. Then the grandparents took over planning the party because she was unreliable. She 100% didn't even work on his part of the party to begin with, and asked a second time with the hope that when the friends were called, they would already be busy. She didn't want him to have the party at all, and was just looking for an excuse. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.